Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to IAG Cargo's Cargo Live. My name's Matthew Gardner, and I'm delighted to be the host of today's episode. For this special edition, we're discussing the current challenges faced by the industry when it comes to attracting talent to work in logistics. We'll also be looking at what it really takes to retain talent in such a volatile time. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening in from, so please do say hello in the comments and give your location a shout out. In 2019, IG Cargo conducted a survey, The Future of Forwarding, with over 400 freight forwarders responding. The survey drew attention to the most significant business challenges identified by freight forwarders. That included 79% of respondents identifying the attraction and retention of talent as being a very significant or a significant challenge. That was 2 years ago. Now that talent challenge that everyone was so concerned about 2 years ago has hit entirely new levels, certainly here in the UK. Labour shortages are headline news. Job vacancies are at the highest since records began, 1.1 million. And we might even be facing a Christmas without turkey. On top of the challenge of attracting talent, many businesses are facing what is being called the turnover tsunami or the Great Resignation. Today, we have a great panel of experts lined up for you, brought together to help support you and your companies in attracting and retaining talent. So whether you're listening on Facebook, on YouTube, or on LinkedIn, please write your questions in the comments or email them to marketingteam@iagcargo.com. Fantastic to see hundreds of people have tuned in already. We've got people saying hello from Cardiff, from India, from Turkey, London, Dublin, Madrid. So keep those hellos coming. I'm going to start today by asking our panelists all to take 60 seconds to introduce themselves and also to provide a very quick top line state of play summary as to how they see the current recruitment market. First up, we've got Peter Pensel from CEVA Logistics. Welcome, Peter.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Peter Pensel. I'm the Chief Operating Officer Air Freight within CEVA Logistics. I'm based in Marseille, France, and I really want to thank IAG Cargo for hosting this event. And I really want to kick off with the introduction of Matthew just said, but I really believe that managing that properly, it starts with the senior leadership in any company you are working in, because I think the fish starts to rot from the head. So if you want to attract or maintain good employees, you have to put time and efforts to really start to know and to really present what are the ideas for them when it comes to developments for them within your company.
I'd also like to welcome Tanya Joseph from H&K to the panel.
Thanks very much, Matthew. So I'm Tanya Joseph. I'm Group Managing Director of Corporate Affairs and Advisory at H&K in London. Part of the practice is employee engagement. It's where we run our ED&I work from as well. So we've got a lot of idea about what's going on across sectors in terms of employee engagement, recruitment, retention. And I'm not sure if it's much comfort, but you are not the only industry that's facing these challenges. And I personally have spent a lot of my time trying to recruit people into my team. And I think it's a lot about how you attract people to your business, but how you make them feel welcome and valued when they're in your business. And what are the mechanisms that you can do to demonstrate you are a business that they want to come to? It is a buyer's market. They have a great deal of choice, and you need to make sure that you're attracting people for the right reason, and they're going to be the people that you're going to want to stay and keep in your business.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I'd also like to welcome Laura Nelson from Talent in Logistics.
Hi everybody, wherever you are in the world and whatever time it is, it's great to join you today. As we said, I'm Managing Director of Talent and Logistics, which is a not-for-profit organisation that seeks to assist the logistics industry with the people challenges that it faces. We were established in 2017, recognising that there was a huge skills issue coming, and as we've said, it really has hit now. And my real focus, particularly in the last 6 to 9 months, has been around the importance of retention, because in the huge tsunami of challenges that we're facing at the moment, we really need to retain the good people we've got within our industry, and we need to look at how we do that. Longer term, of course, we need to attract younger people, more diverse people, but actually right now what we need to do is retain what we've got so that we can keep the wheels of industry moving. So that's really kind of the focus. So looking at what drives employee engagement, what benefits and incentives people already within the industry want. So that does seem to be very different to what people, the younger generation, seem to be looking for in a role. There is a very clear split there. So keen to talk about that a bit more.
Super. Thank you very much, Laura. And completing our panel today, we've got Ben Lyons from Michael Page Logistics.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Great to be here. Yeah, I'm Ben Lyons. I'm Director of the UK Logistics Division for Michael Page, the recruiter. We're the largest professional logistics recruiter in the UK. And yeah, look, we've had a phenomenally busy 2021 so far, driven by the extra demand for skills across the logistics and supply chain industry. We've probably made about 200 more successful hires at this point than we had in 2019. And yeah, the industry, what we're hearing from our clients is, they are under pressure for a number of different areas from a skills perspective. So yeah, hoping to get into during the course of the next half an hour, what clients and employers can do to help around that.
Super. Thank you very much, Ben, and welcome once again to all of our panel. We're getting more hellos coming in. We've got them now from South Africa, Kenya, Delhi, and I can see some questions starting to come in as well, which is great. Please keep those coming. Just to kick off, a few questions of my own, and I want to talk about a survey that IAG Cargo has conducted over the weekend. Over 2,000 people, representative of the UK population, have completed that survey. Results came in only 30 minutes ago. A couple of really key stats in this. 73% of those that we surveyed have never considered a career in air cargo. More alarmingly, only 6% said they would consider a career in air cargo in the future. So I'm going to direct this to you, Peter. Where is the industry coming up short? What should we be doing to attract the best and brightest in logistics? How do we move that 6% figure?
Yeah, I think, of course, it's a great question. And I always believe that it starts with the industry itself. When we are not telling young talents at high schools, universities, that this is a great industry to work with, and really giving tangible examples how career paths can be established in our industry, then it seems that it is a faraway world. So I believe that all the possibilities we have as an industry to be a guest speaker at universities or at colleges around the world, to make them aware that there is a career possibilities in the logistics industry, where people know it's there, but there was never a clear explanation that it would be as attractive as in every other industry, where the lobbyists of that particular industry are perhaps much stronger, and also spending much more time to make the industry aware. So again, as what I started with, I think it starts with us. We have to make sure that we are telling the youngsters at a certain path in their decision making that logistics can and will be a good path for the future.
Super, thank you. No, that makes sense. Talking there about a need for awareness. Talking about tapping into talent via universities. Is that an area where CEVA has a has a program of activity happening?
Yeah, first of all, we are selected a few universities around the world relating in general, but also the logistics universities around the globe, where we are presenting ourselves, but probably mainly the industry on such. Because if you create the awareness that it is a great industry to kick off your career and even to spend your entire career on, I think that that is a very important topic. But you have to be very precise in telling them what kind of career path, because the younger generation, the new generations, they want to have a firm commitment from the company they start to work for. What are the possibilities for a career moves within the company? And if you don't give them that perspective and you don't map that out properly, it's already hindering them to make a decision to start working in the logistics industry.
Super. Thank you very much, Peter. Continuing to get people saying hello, and this is very typical of the cargo or the industry we work in. People are now telling me where they're based on airport codes. Latest through is BNE. I think that's Brisbane, but I should be testing you perhaps on these ones, Peter. Ben, when you speak to candidates outside of the sector about opportunities in logistics, what's the reaction? And there's clearly some level of resistance, which this data supports. Where does that resistance lay? What is it that that's stopping people coming forward in the first place?
Yeah, I think first of all, just to build on what Peter was saying, the logistics industry as a whole is significantly higher in profile than it was pre-COVID. Everyone is aware of how much the industry had to support, keep societies going during lockdowns, etc., etc. And the industry is more in the news now than it ever has been. And I think there's a big opportunity for the industry as a whole to build on that and, let younger generations know the criticality of the logistics and supply chain industry and what an important and rewarding career it can provide as a result. It's very much moved from being behind the scenes to being front page headlines in a relatively short space of time. And I think it's something that we need to build on. In terms of what kind of reaction do we get? I think a lot of it is not really being aware of the opportunities that exist within the logistics and freight industry. And I think that is partly just going back to what Peter said, probably a lack of opportunities for qualifications in education. There's not really, from a UK perspective, there's not really many GCSEs, A-levels, BTECs, for logistics and supply chain qualifications. And I think it's an industry that still, to a large part, people fall into. And, and once they're in it, they realise what a fast-paced and exciting career it can be. And, I don't know, maybe we need to provide more education opportunities early on. But also just be better at promoting ourselves, via social media and so on around what an exciting place to work it can be.
Super, thank you, Ben. And I think we'll come back to that point on education. There's a gentleman, Miguel, here, very much agreeing with some of your sentiments there about the industry, cargo now being in the focus, or has been throughout the course of the pandemic. And making the comment that cargo is now becoming a more attractive career sector. I've talked about some of the data that we've collected over the weekend, but actually, Laura, who's with us today, Talent in Logistics has recently released a really interesting report called "What Drives Drivers," and anyone who is registered for today, we will be sharing a copy of that report afterwards. But Laura, it'd be great if you could give us the headlines from that report as well, please.
Yeah, no problem. Just to pick up on a point that was mentioned before around the cargo as well. Talent and Logistics also ran a survey in 2018, and at that point it was 2,011 to 20-year-olds, and only 44% could name any logistics companies, and it was Tesco, Royal Mail, and Amazon. So real kind of reinforcing that message that you found in your survey. The most recent piece of research that we did with drivers was with the current pool of drivers, and saying to them, what do you want from your employer? What would make you stay with an employer, or what would make you jump to a different employer within the sector, because we've seen, particularly in the UK, huge incentives for people to move employers. £5,000 to sign up with this employer or that employer, and we wanted to see if that's something drivers really wanted, and the resounding feedback was they didn't. What they want is to be rewarded and recognised for their efforts, in particular with a long-term commitment. So they don't want a short-term benefit. They don't want a sign-on bonus. What they want is income protection, critical illness cover. They want higher pension contributions. So something that contributes to a much better, more secure way of life for them. And particularly they wanted their management, which links back to what's been said earlier about the fish rotting from the top, and they want their management to understand the challenges they face and to have empathy from their management. So they really want those people who allocate the work, the traffic office people, all those people that contribute to getting things from A to B, to understand that the environment they're in is very, very difficult, and they want people to have experienced that. So day in the life programs, that kind of thing, they really want that empathy, and I think that's really key going forward in terms of retaining the talent pool we already have.
That's really interesting, it's quite a takeaway that those sign-on bonuses really aren't everything. But no, we look forward to sharing that report with everyone afterwards. I think on that note, recognition comes in many different forms. That cash isn't necessarily the winner there. I saw a stat recently that 80% of people want to feel their work has meaning. Perhaps no surprise in that. A more significant stat was 65% of people are now looking for a job coming out of the pandemic that provides a greater sense of purpose than their current role. Now, it's fantastic to have Tanya with us in terms of that people purpose proposition. And Tanya, I'd love to ask you actually, how do we build and communicate purpose to attract talent?
Well, for me, it's a really, really important element of being a successful business and it's not just about taking a strapline and shoving it on all your letterheads and your website and wherever you can, but it's about living and breathing it. And again, to the fish rotting from the head analogy, which we're now all on. Actually, that's what stops the rot, is actually if it's a central theme of your business and it's at the heart of your business, having a purpose can absolutely not just deliver you really great people who want to stay and be loyal to you, but it delivers you customers who will be loyal to you, and it delivers profits. We know that businesses which are purpose driven not only elicit passion and commitment from their people, their customers and their consumers, but we also know that they outperform on financial markets. I think there was a recent report from EY and the Conference Board, their global leadership forecast, which suggested that they outperform in the financial markets by 42%, whereas companies without that sense of purpose in their mission and vision underperformed by a similar amount. So, it really, really does make a difference. And we know that increasingly people want to feel valued. And as you say, it's not just about a signing on board bonus. It's about feeling that they are contributing to a greater good. And I think people very often get confused and think that purpose is just something that the NGO or charity sector can deliver. But actually, it's about what can a logistics business, and we've absolutely seen in the last 20 months how logistics businesses have absolutely kept us afloat. Them alongside, people working in healthcare have kept us all going. Those of us who've been fortunate enough to be at home have only managed because we've had people turning up at our doors, bringing us food, giving us our essential goods. And it's not just that person, the driver delivering it, but all the people behind them. And I think one of the things that we need to do is demonstrate to those people why they should come and work for you compared to someone else, why your business is really going to make them feel better about the work that they do, give them the sense of pride that they want from work. Everyone wants to feel that sense of pride. It's not just about the money, it's about feeling valued. And going back to that point, it's not just about signing on bonuses, it's about people feeling like the work they're doing is being recognised. And listen, money is important, but it's not the only thing. It's about their bosses understanding what they're going through. It's about that being valued and showcased with everyone, and that people feeling this connection with individuals. I think all of that is incredibly important. And it's the work that we do all the time with our clients, is to help them understand what that sense of purpose is, how they can communicate it to their people, to their potential staff, and how then it becomes something that they're able to engage with customers, people in their supply chain, and to make it a purpose-driven business.
I was scribbling away frantically at some of the comments you were making there, Tanya. You're talking about building loyalty, people wanting to feel like they're contributing, that people want to feel like they belong to something, that they have pride in what they are doing. And I guess that the isolation of the pandemic has perhaps intensified our desire for that, authentic belonging. How can businesses create that culture of, I guess, inclusion? How can they create that sense of belonging, that sense that people are contributing to something bigger that you're talking about there?
Well, by absolutely within their employee base, helping people understand that. I mean, it's a trite phrase, but we're all in it together. That everyone understands, whether you are the person delivering the package to me that they just did just before we started, thankfully, so the doorbell didn't go, or the person putting it on the van, the person that received it at the airport, whatever. That all of those people are valuable, and we've seen it a lot in supermarkets. Some supermarkets came out, they had a good pandemic, right? And they had a good pandemic because they really, really put effort into making every single person that worked for them understand that they as an employer understood that those individuals were doing more than their regular shift, right? They were contributing more. They were putting themselves literally in harm's way to come and make sure that the rest of us had food, we had groceries, we had all the things we needed. And as a result, they have maintained retention levels. They didn't have the levels of sickness that other organizations had, and they've built customer loyalty. So it's soft things, really. It's about making sure that people really get that you value them and you understand them. And I think purpose, and if you put that at the heart of your business, it helps you. It's your kind of North Star. It's the direction that you're always going to go in, and that your values build off that, and that's how you can, it's the guiding principle which all your communications with all of your stakeholders, to use a really horrible word, are built, really. And for me, it makes the difference between a business that is doing okay and a business that's really thriving, and a business that's going to be successful into the future. Because no matter what you do, deep down you want to work for something that you can feel proud of. You can look at yourself in the mirror and think, I do this and I work for this. And we all want that.
Super. I'm going to pick up on a point there you made about the importance of all in it together. And Peter, I mean, from what practical things have you done to manifest a culture of solidarity and belonging at CEVA?
First of all, I think you have to be clear what is your vision and what is the strategy that you as a company would like to achieve. But you have to be clear to the staff and in all levels. So what are we doing? We want to keep close to our employees. We want to make sure that they are part, and tell them that they are part of the journey. Because as what we just spoke about as well, if you make them part of that journey, they feel that they are contributing to something that is tangible, but also share those results that they are part of that. And I think that is a key thing, especially after the last 18 months, where the meetings were less face-to-face, more via Teams or any platform that gives the opportunity to speak to your customers and to your staff. That was very important, because people feel if you are genuinely interested in them and want to make it happen for them in the company. So you have to agree what are your goals? What do you want to achieve as from an employee, but also as an employer? And if you're clear and keeping that communication, because I think communication is always an essential thing towards an employer and an employee, that you can make that difference between their feelings and why they are still want to work for you, rather than in a position probably they are to have other offers. And we just spoke about money is not the most important thing, but it is an important thing in which stage of your life you are. Are you a starter and you are trying to buy a house and your mortgage is dependable on your gross salary? Those kind of elements can also decide the decision to move on. Or what I always try to prefer, having discussions with your staff, even on those tough topics that they say, Peter, the market is like X, you guys are paying us Y. Why is that? So I think open and honest communication both ways is the key of the success.
Yeah, no, really interesting. And you know, I like what you were talking there about, the conversations with individuals where, what, having those open conversations about what do you want to achieve as an employee, but also as an individual. And actually at IAG Cargo, we do make personal aspiration a routine part of our manager conversations. We actually have a really good tool that we use called Open Blend. And that's about asking, how our people are progressing, not just with their, professional, but also with their personal aspirations. And it gets some of those conversations going. I'm just going to take a quick glance at the questions and comments that are coming in here from the audience. I see we've very early, but we've got we've got quite a few Americans listening in as well. So hello, USA. Quite a few comments here rather than questions. A gentleman in India making the comment that he thinks there's a lot of good and trainable talent waiting that could be brought into the industry. A comment here from Lily. The employee of today has changed. Candidates are looking for what a company can do for them. Pushing our greater purpose, wider mission and values are key in a candidate-driven market. Some really good thoughts there. They're almost coming in quicker than I can read them now. Okay, I've got a question here. I'm not sure who it's aimed at directly, but Ben, you're perhaps the most appropriate to answer this. It's essentially, how do you make sure that a headhunting process is efficient, and that as a business you are getting the best out of the recruitment partner you're working with?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think firstly, I think we have to accept that in terms of the cargo industry and the wider logistics industry, that it's not necessarily front of mind for a lot of people. So I think in the early stages, we need to attract a high quality of applicants, and we can do that by making sure that when we're advertising jobs via job adverts, that they are well written, high quality, they make the role sound interesting, exciting, and they sell the organization. I think another way we can do that in terms of engaging candidates at the start of the process is, and just going back to what was said earlier about having a vision, I think providing the recruiter, whether that's an external or an internal recruiter, with a couple of slides talking about the business in a bit more detail and outlining the vision for that business, so that the recruiter can then pass that on to the candidates alongside a well-written job spec. And that provides a bit of engagement in both the business and the opportunity prior to any interview. And we're working on the assumption here that candidates are going to have multiple choices potentially. So you have to engage them in your opportunity and your organization right from the start of the process. I think then, moving on to the interview process in terms of making sure that you are getting the absolute right candidate for your organisation, I think it's really key to have a standardised set of interview questions so that everyone is assessed in a consistent manner and also with a consistent scoring method as well. And ahead of that, it is about being very clear on what are the key competencies required to do this job, and designing interview questions accordingly that assess that and are asked of every candidate. I still think there's too many interviews that go on out there that, where there's no real thought given to that. And it is very much, right, I'm going to walk into an interview room and have a chat, and I'm going to, see if I like the look of them and if they can do the job effectively. And I think, there needs to be more preparation up front ahead of an interview to make sure that you're having, a standardized, consistent interview process as well. And if you think about the time that would save of making the wrong hire, then a little bit of investment up front would save a lot of time in terms of getting it wrong as well. So I think they're the big ones, I would say, in terms of, making sure the recruitment process is managed as effectively as possible to get the best quality applicants and the right result for the organisation.
Super. It was really interesting that you moved it on into that recruitment process as well, because we actually had a question come in via email about, how do you ensure that you make the right decision at the end of the process? But I think some really good takeaways there in terms of the consistency of process and going into that interview as a hiring manager, prepared and ready to sell your organisation in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other reason that is important, Matt, is just from an inclusivity perspective as well, and trying to remove any subconscious biases out of the process as well, so that ultimately you are selecting the right candidate and the best candidate for the job.
Super, thank you. I've another question in here, and I'm happy for anyone to jump in with answers on this one. How do you best use social media channels to attract attention? How do you use social media as the recruitment tool?
I'm happy to contribute a little bit to that one, and then probably Ben as well. Is if we're looking at attracting younger people to our industry, they've got very short attention spans. It's well documented. It's 8 seconds. It's all this kind of stuff, and it's TikTok and it's Instagram and it's Snapchat. It's not really even YouTube, because YouTube's too long. And so we've talked a little bit about the importance of going into schools, but actually younger people are very adept at researching themselves. They're very good self-educators. So I think as an industry, we have to think about, how do we use TikTok, Instagram and Snapchat to demonstrate what our industry offers? And a lot of people, I read a piece of research last week that said 72% of US teenagers wanted to run their own business. They didn't actually want a job for life. They wanted a job that would help them in their personal target. And so showing them behind the scenes of the business in videos and things was really helpful. So I think using social media channels, maybe not to communicate this is a job for life and those things, but actually this is how we will help you reach your personal goals, in very short, sharp, snippets, videos particularly is really, really important. And we need to get on board with where they are. And it's not LinkedIn, it's not Facebook. Facebook is seen as for old people, apparently, I'm told by my nieces and nephews.
I think it really depends on, I think you're absolutely right. And it depends on the audience you're trying to attract. Okay. But to be honest, if the first conversation is about a job, then it's kind of coming too late, because people are canny. And as you said at the top, Matthew, awareness of jobs within logistics is very, very low. So people need to, everyone in this sector needs to be telling the story of the huge variety of roles that are available, and to bring it to life. What does it actually mean? What would I actually be doing? So using all those channels to communicate the rich diversity of jobs, the kind of people that work there, so people can imagine themselves. So by the time we get to an actual job ad, people have got something that's interesting, and then they, make sure that the website where you're presumably going to be directing traffic has got something that's exciting and engaging, and looks a little bit like the ad that you've posted, or the message that you've put, or the little film that you've put on TikTok, so that people think, oh, this is a place. They haven't lured me in, and actually it's nonsense, but this is somewhere that I can imagine myself. And for some roles it is going to be TikTok, for other roles it's going to be another platform, but whichever platform you use, you need to start before the actual job ad, if that makes sense.
Super, thank you. I don't feel we can have this conversation about talent acquisition without also talking about flexible or remote working. How important is it in terms of attracting talent, and should businesses be offering it? I'd love views from all of you on that, but I'll start with Peter.
I think the past 18 months learned us that we can be flexible. When it's not possible in the role you have in the organization, you also have to be clear that the benefit of being together in an organization, adding value for your customers. So it's not always possible, but when there is a possibility, it became part of the discussions we have with our current staff as well. Must it be 3 days at the office, 2 days from home? How can we facilitate that at the offices? Because still we are in a process of managing COVID outbreaks around the globe. So still there are restrictions, but I know for sure that especially the newer generation, but also the people who are faced the working conditions as they were over the last 18 months, that we have continuous discussions on how do we fill in the hours worked at the office or from a working home environment. And I think it's a fair discussion, because in our industry, yes, it was challenging times. We just spoke about it. Long hours because we have to deliver, especially on the cargo side, where we had to catch up with a lot of less capacity via air because the passenger aircraft were not flying. But still, we managed pretty well what we had to do. So automatically, the staff will tell to us, yeah, but Peter, it worked when we were full isolation from home working towards a situation where we can increase and we can be together. Some people like that. But the standard discussion will be around how many days at home, how many days at the office.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on that one, Tanya?
I thought it was really interesting early on in the lockdown, which was in Britain, was last March 2020. God. That very quickly the office was written off. Days of the office are dead, and I think that is just not true. I think that for people who are office based, I think we probably never move back to everyone working every day that they work in the office. But I do worry that if we don't have people in the office working together, working collaboratively, it will not be a good experience. I think it doesn't. There are some things that are really good to be doing at home, but some things which are really important that you work with colleagues. And I worry about our more junior, our less experienced colleagues in particular. How on earth do they learn if they're not learning from people around them? Of course, you can give them structured, and you should be giving them structured learning opportunities. But literally the experience of seeing a more experienced colleague handle something tricky or deal with a difficult customer or all of those things just don't happen. And I think, that creative spark that you sometimes get, I think is just gone, because, these virtual meetings are very, very transactional. And we also need to remember for lots and lots of people, there is no possibility to work from home. If you are, there are lots and lots of jobs in this sector, you have to show up. You can't say, don't worry, I'll be driving from my front room today. You have to show up. So again, making sure that people don't feel like there's one rule for some people and one rule for another, and people understanding why this isn't happening, or why these things are happening, is really important. But I think we'll probably head to a more hybrid working if we can make the technology work, which is, sometimes can be challenging.
Thank you, Tanya. Ben, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think, look, the majority of organisations are still keen for people to spend some time in the office for the very reasons that Tanya outlined there, which is around collaboration and also, training up a newer generation of workers. I think at the same time, by its very nature, by being, open to remote working, you do open up a larger geographic talent pool. So, for example, we recently filled a couple of jobs for a large food manufacturer, some custom specialist jobs, where they were open to the two candidates being based anywhere in the UK, provided they had the right skills. And it was skills that were hard to find. But by opening themselves out to that large geographic talent pool, all of a sudden you open yourselves out to more applicants and more potential candidates. So I think it's finding that balance between that and having people in the office collaborating as well. And I guess it depends on the nature of the skills that are required for the specific roles.
Thank you. As Tanya says, you can't drive from your front room. But
Absolutely.
Laura, if I could also invite some thoughts on the topic for yourself, please.
Yeah, we were really surprised. So when we did a survey of drivers, we thought that flexible working was going to be something that was really attractive to them. Not being able to work from home, but staggered hours or annualized hours, that kind of thing. We thought that would be something they'd really want, and it absolutely was not. So it came out staggered hours and flexible working or job sharing actually came out as the least attractive benefits for the current talent pool. And that's not to say that people outside of our industry don't want that, but certainly the current people who we've got circulating within the sector, they recognise that actually my job needs doing and I need to be there to do it. So they don't want that flexible working. It's not a key motivator for them. We were really surprised. We thought it would. So yeah, really, yeah. So definitely important, but recognising that where jobs have to be done airside or wherever it might be, that those people working in those industries do understand that flexible working might not be possible for them, and it isn't necessarily a negative thing for them.
Thank you. And thank you everyone at home or in your offices, whether you're working remotely or in an office, for sending the questions in. I'm sorry I'm not going to get to all of them. There really are quite a few questions coming in there. One question I am going to pick out though, for yourself, Peter, from Ricardo in Montreal. Do you think old business systems are holding back interest from potentially good candidates? So that's, are the legacy systems technology stopping people coming into our industry?
I think that could be a reason when they are looking to the organization, and that's still driven by old legacies. It could not be appealing to the younger generation, but I think where the opposite probably is the case, that a lot of investment in our industry are going on for the last several years, and huge investments are made on IT levels, on how to operating systems can be connected both towards direct hosting to customers, financially models within the operating system. So again, I think there is the lack of being upfront to the outside world what we can do as an industry, and really these questions came from probably assumptions about the industry, because the industry is not telling where they are and what they are doing to invest and to make sure that our industry will last for years, and also last for years to employ people. So I think, again, it comes back to the same discussion we had earlier. Why are we not telling, when we are at the birthday party of some relatives, that look to yourselves? If people ask to me, what are you doing? Yes, I'm in logistics. But we have to preach that we are in a great industry and a lot of opportunities for the young generations to be part and to make a career. Because I think that is also a very true statement, that you can make good careers in the logistics industry. But again, we have to tell them.
thank you. In response to that answer, Ricardo actually said, very true, Peter, we need to invite them to come and fix it. One other comment I want to quickly read out, as I think it's a very relevant one, and thank you for this, Lily. Work-life balance and well-being is one of the many elements for businesses that is at the forefront of many conversations following the pandemic and a desire in the market. It's important to consider the value of hybrid working and the role that this plays within the diversity and inclusion agenda as well, which is something we've not overly explored this morning. I'm very conscious that we've got about 60 seconds left of this morning's event, and wow, did that go quickly. Clearly, huge interest in the topic. Over the last 40 minutes, we've discussed the current challenges faced by the industry when it comes to attracting talent to work in logistics. What a conversations it's been. My intention in our remaining 60 seconds is to close by doing a very quick summary of some of the key themes and points we've heard. I've been scribbling away. I can't 100% read all of my own notes, and apologies if this is a bit unstructured, a bit of a random stream of thoughts, but I think everyone talked about fish rotting from the head. I'm the only person not to have mentioned a fish so far, so let's make sure we reference that. And there's a serious point to that, the importance of leadership on this issue. We've talked about a lack of awareness in our sector. Peter talked about the importance of clear vision, clear strategy, making employees part of that journey. Ben gave a great takeaway about being upfront, putting upfront effort into the JD. If you're working with a recruiter, helping your recruiter to sell in your organization. And Tanya followed that up by referencing that it's effort into the whole recruitment experience, making sure that the experience is joined up, and it's not just about the job spec, it's about the content that you've got on your own website. We talked about how money is important. Peter touched on the importance of being able to pay your mortgage. The last 20 months have sharpenly it's awakened our innate hunger for meaning and purpose, forced into self-reflection, I guess, during extended periods of working from home. Workers have questioned the value of their work and the sense of meaning it provides. As an industry, if we are to attract the best and the brightest talent, we need to do better at highlighting the importance of what we do. Now, the good news is, if candidates are looking for employment with purpose, we are an industry that provides that. Logistics and cargo, we keep the world moving. At IAG Cargo, we are very aware that if we didn't do our jobs, then life-saving jobs wouldn't do theirs. What we carry counts. We keep supermarket shelves stacked. We power world trade. What we clearly, collectively, as an industry need to do is shout more about that purpose, and the data shows that is what candidates are looking for. We've also discussed remote working, and of course there are huge benefits. Non-existent commute times. I don't miss spending every day on the M25. We're talking, lower operational costs, and I think it was Ben that referenced, and a larger pool of job applicants. But virtual work, of course, has its own challenges. How do you build trust, a sense of belonging, and meaningful connections without in-person interactions? I think one of the key takeaways there, is that as employers, we need to have a flexible mindset. And Tanya has talked about belonging. How can we create that? And I think there we come back to trust, and trust is the glue that binds the team together. It drives performance, it facilitates collaboration. And it can be more challenging to establish trust in a remote world, between team members who no longer sit in the same room. And, certainly with the aim of making our unit as resilient as possible and navigating through the pandemic, I wanted to ensure that my team not only saw their co-marketers as reliable and dependent, but that they developed genuine, care and concern for each other. And, various ways I've tried to achieve that, but that's definitely a story for another time. because we have hundreds and hundreds of people listening from all over the world, here's a shameless plug. We have exciting and ambitious plans for IG Cargo. We are recruiting, and there are lots of opportunities here within this business. So, please keep an eye out on our LinkedIn page. Most importantly, I want to thank today's speakers for their meaningful contributions, for an exciting conversation and lots of strong takeaways. So a big thank you to Ben Lyons from Michael Page Logistics, Laura Nelson from Talent in Logistics, Peter Pensill from CEVA Logistics, and Tanya Joseph from H&K Strategies. Thank you ever so much. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. To those of you who tuned in from home, thank you again for being part of our audience today, and thank you for the great questions. Sorry that we've not got to all of them, but for those of you who have opted into our emails and have attended today, we will also be circulating that report from Laura later today as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and wishing you all a good day and happy recruiting. Thank you.